What's up, everybody? Thomas Brandon here. Welcome to another School of the Sim Racing video. Now today we're going to be taking a look at the pro late models, the dirt late models. Okay. Now, really quick, full disclosure. Once again, I am not the world's greatest late model driver. I've drastically improved since I've kind of figured out these setups with these cars, but I'm not the world's greatest late model driver, okay? To be honest, I just started driving these things about a month ago. When I first drove one, I drove the limited late model. Those things sucked. I mean, to me, it was, you might as well just be driving a freaking street stock. And so I had kind of just stayed away from the late models. I was like, I don't even want to do these things. And I had been doing pretty much just the sprint cars, the wing sprint cars, and the midgets. And then when I got up into the C class, I started actually kind of doing I gave the pro late model a try, and it was cool. I liked it. I didn't know much about the setup with it though, so because of that, I was having some problems with it. And then I tried the World of Outlaws late models with the fixed setup, and those things were almost impossible for me to drive at that time. I was like, these things suck, because I mean, those things got so much power, and you get it crossed up and it just shoots to the wall. I mean, I was just like, I got to stay away from these things. And so I kind of didn't really mess with it until, like I said, about a month ago. I had some more free time, and I was like, I want to figure these things out. And so I found some stuff online, in terms of base setups and things like that, starting points. And then I just started going from there. And now I've got, some good setups on these cars. Now, I'm going to be showing you two setups today, okay? So the first setup is going to be what I call my base setup. This is for drivers that are, that I would say, beginner to intermediate in terms of late model driving. So if you've had trouble with these things and you haven't quite figured out the setup with them, or you tried the iRacing setups, but you just can't seem to get those things around the track consistently, this first setup is for you, okay? Then we've got the next one, which is going to be what I call my 1A setup. This is the aggressive setup. This setup is much faster, but much harder to drive. So this is for those of you who are good, right? You are a very good late model driver, and you're just missing, that one or two, key ingredients to your setup that's going to take you over the top. That's what this is for. Now, even though I'm an average late model driver at best, the reason why I know this setup is so much better is because it drastically improved my lap times. Now, I wasn't consistent with it. That was really the thing, but that was how I kind of discovered the direction that I was needing to go with the setups. Because I started out with this base one down here. I just freed up the car, got rid of all the left side bite and all that stuff like that, just freed it up so I could drive the damn thing, and then discovered that, hey, the more I go towards this, this direction where this aggressive setup is, the faster the car is, but the harder it is to drive. Okay? And so that's what I'm going to be showing you in today's video. Now, first off, we're just going to load up iRacing Charlotte Dirt setup, and I'm going to just do a couple of, baseline laps here. Now, when it comes to these cars, one of the things I really like about them, I'm liking more and more about them, is they're really a driver's car. You have to have throttle control. You have to actually really, go out and hit your lines and stuff. And, unlike the wing sprint cars sometimes where you get on some tracks where you're just hammer down, wing down, turn left. These, you gotta have, to me, I think you gotta have some more skill. Now, that's not to say that wing sprint car drivers don't have skill. They absolutely do. But I just think these ones are a little bit more technical, so I'm really liking them more and more. Now, this setup, as you can see, it's okay, and it ease in and out of the throttle, and you've got a decent setup here. You just want to try to basically get the car set, and then try to keep it straight coming out of the corner, so that way you're not all crossed up and scrubbing off speed. That's what really kills these pro late models. is if you get them too crossed up coming out of the corner, it really kills your lap times. And that's what a lot of drivers have a problem with. Is what they do is they try to get these things in, and then they get like this, all crossed up. And these things don't have the horsepower to power through that like the World of Outlaws ones do, like the super late models do. Now the super late models power through it, and then what happens is they shoot you right to the wall. So you want to make sure that you can drive these things before you try driving those bigger ones, because those other ones, those things are fast. They're way powerful. Now if we look at the laps here, you can see 15.8 was my fastest lap. If I wanted to run a few more laps and, you know, try to be a little bit more consistent, I could probably get down to maybe 15.7. So not bad, you know, considering it's their base setup. I think the times that I looked at for this track in this class, the strength of field was like 3,000. So I mean, it was good, very good drivers. I think they were turning like 15.3s in qualifying or something like that. So you know, half a second off. Not you know, nothing too crazy. So let's load up our first setup. Now this setup is much more free. So first of all, if we look at the pressures here, you can see we got 4 inches of stagger. Tire pressures, we've got 12, 10, 10, and 8. Okay, pretty basic. Our toe in minus 6/16. Steering ratio, brake pressure, all that stuff, I leave that basically the same. Brake pressure bias is really a driver, you know, preference for these cars. Just know that the more rear brake you have, the more the car is going to slide. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Now, the ride heights with these cars, you want to get these as low as you can. All right. The lowest legal limit on the front is 4 inches. On the rear is 5 inches. You can see I'm just right above that. So what we've got here is we've got a 550 spring in the left front, a 375 in the right front. On the shocks, I've got a 2.4 on the left front, and I've got a 2.9 on the right front. Camber and caster, we've got 3.1 camber on the left front with 2.2 caster, and then on the right front, we've got negative 5.1 and positive 4.2 on the caster. Side note, whenever you make adjustments to your car, specifically ride height, spring changes, things like that, always readjust your caster and camber. They will change, okay? They will change, so always keep that in mind. Down here on the back, we've got a 225 spring in the left rear and a 250 spring in the right rear. I've got a 9.3 shock in the left rear and a 6.5 in the right rear. My upper trailing arm on the left rear is 24 degrees. On the right, it's 20 degrees. My chassis J-bar is 20 inches. My droop chain is 24.5. Got the ballast at negative 16. You can see we've only got 33 pounds of bite to the left rear. And then my axle J-bar height is at 15 inches, and I'm running the axle straight up, right? We've got it at 0. I got a 499 gear. So this is the first setup. This setup is a much more freed up setup. The car is much more loose. It's going to be much easier to get into the corner. Okay? In fact, when the first thing you're going to want to test these setups, because the first thing that you're probably going to do with this setup is spin it out, because it's going to be so much more free getting into the corner. But the nice thing is that it's a lot easier to drive. It's much more forgiving. It's much more forgiving, and you can still turn decent laps with it. See how much easier the thing gets into the corner? I mean, it's almost too easy, but that's okay, because it gives you a starting point. For those of you who are newer, it gives you a starting point to where you can now come out and you can have the car that's a lot easier to drive, and you can really learn how these things work. And this setup works on both the top and the bottom. It works really good on the top. It's much more forgiving. You don't have to be nearly as perfect. You don't have to worry about, you know, running the ragged edge and backing it up into the cushion and stuff like that. You can literally just drive it around the top and still be pretty decent. But one thing you have to keep in mind is the car is, you can see right there, the car is a lot more loose getting in. But because it's so much more free, it gives you the opportunity to really keep the momentum up, so you're not bogging the car down, and it'll help you learn how to, like I said, get these things set in the corner, rotating, things like that. Oops, crossed her up too much. But you can see, I mean, I'm basically backpedaling all the way to the center, getting the car rotated and gassing it out, and it's doing okay, right? Much more forgiving setup. And like I said, you can run this thing on the top and the bottom. All right, so that is our first setup. And if we go here and we look at some laps, you can see the first session we had a 15.8. That was our fastest lap. These times are right around that, right? Remember, some of these laps I was running around the top, the 16s and stuff like that, but you can see we had 15.878, 15.874, 15.9, right? So we're right if we look at this lap right here, right? I mean, this lap, I'm running this thing basically through the middle, and we turned relatively the same lap time. So this is a much easier setup to drive, and you can still lay down decent lap times with it. And if you actually spend some time with it and get used to it, you'll get consistent, and that's the key with these cars. Being consistent is really the key. So that is our first base setup. All right, now our next one, what I call the base 1A. This is far more aggressive. So this is for those of you who are intermediate and above. You are good to awesome in these cars. It is a much harder setup to drive, but it is fast. If you can drive it, it is fast. Okay. So first thing, we have tires the same, stagger the same. Now, springs, we have a 500 in the left front, a 300 in the right front. For our shocks, we have a 3.8 on the left front, a 2.8 on the right front. Our camber is at 3.6, our caster at 2.2 in the left front. Right front, we're at -5 and 4.7 for the camber and the caster. Down here, we have a 175 spring in the left rear, a 200 in the right rear. We have a 9.3 shock on the left rear and a 6.5 on the right rear. Upper trailing arm is at 22 degrees on the left. It's at 20 degrees on the right. Our chassis J-bar is at 16. Our droop chain's at 24.5. And we've got 197 pounds of bite to the left rear. So way more left rear bite. This is going to make the car very hooked up, but very hard to drive. So, like I said, for those of you who are like, look, Tommy, man, I'm already good with these things. I'm just trying to figure out how to get some more speed out of it. This is the setup for you. The reason I know it is because I can turn extremely fast laps with this setup. I just can't do it consistently, right? Like, I need to spend more time working on these setups. Okay. So let me see what I can do. First, I got to run some laps around the top because I got to get used to this setup. It's going to feel so much different. But you can see how much more hooked up it is around the top here. Ups, didn't rotate enough. I'm gonna hit the wall. That's okay. It's alright if you hit the wall in these cars. Do you see how much that thing pushes to the wall now? This is what I mean by it's so hard to drive. If you don't get this thing set correctly and get it lined up coming out of the turn correctly, you are screwed. Now, if you can do it, it is a fast mamma jamma. It really is. I had actually got some of the ideas for this setup from, it was a setup that I found online, I want to say from OSR. Now it wasn't for Charlotte, it was for like Knoxville or something like that, and they had like 220 pounds of left rear bite. Like, it was a crazy hard setup, but it was fast. It was really fast. I recognized the name of the driver as someone who I've actually, seen like do good in these late model races. And so I got it, I tried it, and I was like, man, if I can actually drive this thing consistently, it's really, really good. And so I had that as kind of like my reference point as to like, okay, so this is where I need to get with the setup in terms of the bite and stuff like that. And then what I did was I just went through and I started with that other base setup that I've got, and I just started changing things. Right, I didn't just wind more bite into it, but I used different shocks, different springs, things like that, all based off of those matrix that I gave you guys in the last video. So that way, I could start tuning it to my driving style. Because look, that guy's setup was good, but it's not made for me. See here, my laps are definitely getting better and more consistent. The more I'm using this setup, the more I'm getting used to it. Oh, overshot the center. I just say how good my laps are getting, and then I screw up and I jump a tire. Well, we turned enough laps. Let's see how we did on the lap times. You can see much faster. And keep in mind, okay, like I really want to make this point. Keep in mind, I am not the best late model driver, okay? I'm not. If we look at how much I'm letting off the throttle getting into the corner and stuff with this car. So, and I think is this one I hit the wall. I hit the wall this lap, and I said a 15.7. I'd probably be at like a 15.6. So, try these setups. Okay, see how they work for you, and then you can start making adjustments on them. Now, you've got the setup matrix and stuff like that to help you make adjustments on them, on these cars. Also, one thing that I've noticed, these trailing arms in the back here, when it comes to like fine tuning these cars, these trailing arms and then the J bars are that's actually four adjustments that are kind of my go-to in terms of fine tuning the car. Right? Once you've got a good base setup on here, you actually don't need to change these things that much. You might throw in a different spring or shock, right, in the main, but overall, when the track slicks off, these setups are still pretty good. You just need to do some fine tuning on them. Try these setups out, go out, test them on a slick track and things like that. Try to make these changes, little tweaks and stuff like that to use that setup matrix, okay? And it'll help you get these things dialed in, all right? So that's going to do it all for this video. Now, really quick, before you go, if you like this video, do me a favor, hit that like button, all right? And also make sure to subscribe, okay? The numbers have been phenomenal for just a few videos that I put out to have this many people subscribe and sharing and liking and stuff. It's awesome. It really, really is. So please, hit the like button. Keep sharing these videos. Subscribe, right? Get these out. Get this out. If you have not already subscribed, make sure to subscribe and then hit that notification bell so you know when I put out the next video. The next one I'm going to do is going to be on the dirt midgets, and you're not going to want to miss that because I am when it comes to driving, I am much better at the dirt midgets. I'm actually awesome at the dirt midgets. I wish they had a pro class for the midgets because I would be a pro in those things. I really would. So, but that's going to be the next one. I'm going to show you the setups that I use on that and everything. So make sure that you are subscribed and you hit that notification bell so you know when I put that out. Okay? So do all that for me. And then I will be back to do this all over again. And until then, I want to wish you, as always, good luck, good racing. Take care. I'll see you in the next video. Have a good one.